Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at silver. It is time for another update, and of course we will also be taking a look at gold. But today we have an interesting update to make because we might have a bottom in. We have just fulfilled the expectation from the previous video on both silver and gold to form one additional low to form a reset within this either wave B in yellow or wave 2 in green. We have done that. We have wicked into a 3% dip, but we have recovered it already. We are in the green right now, and the smaller time frame correction doesn't need anything else, right? In the previous video, we were looking for one additional low to be formed against $81, and it happened. Now that this is in place, I have a full pattern, and I do start to see more of a bottoming structure take place within this area, so we will be looking at the next levels of confirmation that a more substantial bottom would be in. It is probably even more apparent on the gold chart that it would be the case, but of course there is never a guarantee and extensions would be possible. But before we get into those details, let's provide some context for the larger time frame because it's instrumental to understanding what we can expect from the smaller time frame perspective. So, on this chart, we have been tracking this idea of a larger diagonal structure where currently we would be within the wave 3 to the upside. We are still looking to form one additional high within this wave 3 based on our current structure. But once we actually have a top in place within this larger wave 3, we need to expect a substantial wave 4 correction, and that's not necessarily in terms of depth. Sure, it could be a pretty deep retracement as well, but I'm more focused on the idea of a time frame. So, since within this as a wave 2, I had something like a 2-year correction, I could be looking at something similar within this as a wave 4, potentially even more than that given the strength that we have had within this movement to the upside. Nonetheless, we can stop here with the large time frame structure because even once we form this additional high within this large wave 3, extensions will be possible, of course. So we go into a smaller time frame where, yes, we are tracking an ABC pattern within the larger wave 3 since we are tracking a diagonal structure. We would have the wave A up here, the wave B down here, and this would be my wave C to the upside, in which I am tracking an ending diagonal within which I am only looking to continue within a wave 5. Since it is an ending diagonal, this wave 5 is expected to build an ABC pattern, and this is key. Because since it is only a 3-wave move to the upside, we cannot be certain of a wave A building neither a 3-wave pattern or a 5-wave pattern. At this point, both options are possible, and we expect different patterns within these two scenarios. So in green, I am tracking a leading diagonal, meaning that I would be building a 5-wave pattern within the wave A, which means I would expect to build 3 waves within the green wave 3. I would still expect higher prices within the wave A once that is done, but only after a larger wave 4 correction, similar in proportions with what we had in this as a wave 2. Right? Once that is done, we get another high and we have even an initial 5-wave move to the upside, which would allow us to identify a pretty compelling trade setup. Then, in the yellow interpretation, I am tracking an ABC pattern instead, in which case I expect to only build 3 waves to the upside within this as a larger wave A in white. But within this wave C, instead of building a 3-wave pattern as I expect within the wave 3 in green, I am looking to build a 5-wave pattern instead, rather more directly. Now, since we are considering a possible bottom to be in within both of these structures, we can look at some ideal targets because for the wave 3 itself, the ideal target is the 138.2% extension of a wave 1 that sits at $110. From the current levels, we would be looking at a 46% gain, right? Even that, pretty compelling. Then, in the yellow interpretation, I am instead looking for an ideal target for the wave C at the 100% extension of the wave A. That sits at $98, pretty much in line with this red structural resistance level we have in place. Right, we have it drawn at $96, but the wick actually pushes a bit higher. We could very easily top perfectly into the 100% extension and then have the larger retracement, the larger correction, the wave B in white. Nonetheless, I can still safely expect to have some trouble getting through both of these red levels that have rejected us so many times already. Now, the thing is, within the smaller time frame, even though we have the ABC pattern complete in the red interpretation, even though we can have a bottom in place, it is not necessary. These structures can always extend, and that is why we will still be watching the levels of support we have in this white interpretation. We also do not even have a guarantee that this is an ABC structure. Both the wave B and the wave 2 can create more complex corrections, something like a WXY pattern potentially. With that said, we have, again, the count complete. We have that last additional low we have been expecting. It's created a quite large wave 4 correction I might consider. It might be even the case that the wave 3 had bottomed here instead, and all of this would have been a triangle within the wave 4. A perfectly valid and acceptable count, but we are past that. It doesn't really matter exactly which count has taken place within this move down, because I am looking for the potential reversal. So I am looking firstly at internal levels of resistance before anything else. So I would be watching types of extensions this pattern could still be forming. And as a key count that would allow one additional low actually would be here to have a wave 1 down, a wave 2 up, a wave 3 down, a wave 4 up, and a wave 5 that would complete this structure. We will of course be tracking this in red. And then I would have the resistance levels to watch out for up to the 61.8% retracement. And we are actually quite close to getting to this last level of resistance. And if we manage to get a sustained break above it, it would be a healthy signal that a more substantial bottom would be in, at least within this wave to the downside, right? We would then be looking at the next large level of resistance, but for now, we can focus on the $75.6 level. We want to see a break past that, and if we get it, if we get the sustained break, we can take it to the next level. Now, before we go for the gold chart, one more thing I wanted to go into is even the smaller time frame perspective, where I am actually even able to identify an impulse within this movement to the upside. I would track this as a wave 1, I would have here a wave 2, and given the actual structure at hand, I see the possibility for something quite bullish. We cannot guarantee such a thing, especially given the time frame, but I could be tracking even a series of 1-2 setups within this structure where at any point we could see a pretty strong movement to the upside. To be clear, this is not a guarantee. I do not know that the structure will unfold in this manner. Neither within the yellow or the green interpretation is this necessary. Within both of them, we can actually build a quite large diagonal structure, in which case this could be building instead something like an ABC pattern, and then we build a larger ABC pattern, something like that. We would have then a wave 1 up, and so on. This doesn't need to unfold in a very bullish and impulsive manner. It is rather something to consider as long as the momentum is picking up, as long as the strength is actually increasing rather than decreasing. But now let's move actually to the gold chart, because it once again provides useful information for the silver chart as well. So within this structure, I would have had a more compelling trade setup from the larger time frame perspective. We had a more clearly identifiable initial 5-year move to the upside within this as a wave 1, and we have a quite clear 3-wave correction within this as a wave 2. We have been considering a potential bottom within both the silver and the gold chart, but it wasn't necessary. We had the levels of resistance that needed to be broken to clearly indicate that we wouldn't see further lows within this structure. Now that we have gotten these lows, I actually am looking for a more substantial to be in, since especially on the gold chart we have a quite nice and clear structure in place where I do not need any further lows to consider this pattern complete. So we have 5 waves up, we pushed in a 3-wave correction into the 61.8% retracement, and we see a quite nice movement today, right? We are looking at, what is this, like a 2-3% gain from the current lows, and it's pushing into quite high relative levels of resistance we would have internally, yeah? Even though it is less of a movement than what we have on the silver chart. Relative strength is actually better here. So for this structure, I am looking to push beyond the previous swing high, right? If we can see a break above $4,582, it would be a healthy signal that a more substantial bottom would be in. The next major target would be the wave B top. If we can push even past this, it's another layer of confirmation that we would have a more substantial bottom in. Now, I have to say, in the internal structure, we don't have as much clarity within this movement to the downside. We actually heavily lack structure, but I wouldn't mind this. I am focused rather on the larger time frame here. I am watching this as a wave 2, and from the current lows, I am looking for a similar type of pattern to occur on the gold chart. And in the smaller time frame, on this chart, we actually have a slightly better structure. I once again see an initial 5-wave move to the upside. I have a 5-wave pattern up, so it would have been strongly suggested that after a 3-wave correction into the support zone, we would expect to continue to higher prices. The same way we can track something pretty directly bullish on the silver chart, I could be tracking the same pattern on the gold chart. I would have here something like a double 1-2-1-2 setup, where we can expect a typically quite shallow retracement, and it could just start running and running. I wouldn't bother too much to track the internal structure at this point. If we manage, however, to build an initial 5-wave move to the upside, it can become interesting to look for a follow-up trade setup, because this would be another layer of confirmation which would allow us to actually increase our positioning, given that we have very close levels of support, very clearly defined levels of support, where we know that most likely we will get a complete reset within this large wave 2 in yellow. Because of course, as always, extensions to lower prices would remain possible. And one more thing before we end the video. The same way as on the silver chart, we can expect even a diagonal structure. It is applicable here as well. And just a recap, we can see on the gold chart as well a more choppy structure. We do not need to create an impulse here in a direct fashion. We could be building a leading diagonal within a wave 1 before taking off within the actual wave 3 of the larger wave 3, right? We could be looking at a 1-2, and then we take off strongly within the wave 3 that would possibly take us even directly to new all-time highs. But for now, we will stop here. These are the levels. This is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and if you enjoyed the content and want to support it directly, check out the channel membership, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.